Hello, welcome everybody here. Very excited to have the next hour with two of my friends, Melanie and Kim. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to get in, get settled, grab a cup of tea, a glass of water, depending which time zone you're in, a glass of wine. I won't judge. Will we judge? No, absolutely not. I'm really grateful for everyone for coming to the session today. It's a bit of a juicy one, so juicy actually that we almost scrapped the title, and then the three of us came together with our powers combined and convinced me and the Leapsome team. Otherwise, we're going to be talking a little bit about why everyone seems to hate HR, which is a topic that I know all of us have engaged with at various points in our own social media and even just together chatting in various different ways. So because it's a juicy one, I would really love if everyone chatted in the chat. Tell us what you think. Give us your feedback, react, give us questions, give us thoughts. It's really helpful for us to have the feedback from the audience and let us know what you're thinking. It kind of pushes us in a direction that's a little bit more engaging, a little bit more dynamic. And I'd love us all to practice that by letting us know where we are in the world, where we're dialing in from. If you are in a time zone where wine is allowed, maybe let us know. And if not, what's holding you back? That's my question. It's Tuesday. It's sunny here in New York City. And I'm really excited to get going. Kim, I'm going to start with you. 7 a.m. over there where you are, bright and
Yeah,
early. How's
bright
your
and
week
early. I've
going?
got my coffee. No, I think Andrew's
Perfect.
already having bourbon. So,
Good on Andrew. Melanie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Cannot complain. It's my birthday month, so always a good month. I just finished my I'm a very last minute planner and last night I
Mm.
just finished booking my trip to Turkey. So I'm excited.
Ooh,
how
super
fun.
exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's gonna be like half city trip, half beach trip.
Love this. I also really love that we've got three HR leaders that are very vocal about work-life balance and getting time off keys and spending time refreshing and reviving. I could talk all day about my month-long road trip I'm about to go on at the end of this week, but that's I think one for a different webinar maybe. Okay, what we're meant to be talking about. We're talking about something that I think a lot of people leaders I speak to seem to acknowledge but find uncomfortable saying kind of out loud sometimes in front of their teams, maybe to each other, right? Maybe at conferences, maybe at events. It's a gap between, if I'm going to distill it down, why we got into this type of work and then how it's actually perceived by not only our own companies, but gosh, if you've ever spent some time on Reddit and anti-work subreddits, the truth is that HR has a reputation. And I don't think it's really about the individuals in it, in my opinion. It's like a structural problem. It's how it gets positioned in the company. It's how what employees see and critically what they don't see. And actually, I think as well, it's about whether or not we have access to the systems, the power, the decisions that actually really matter. And that's what I want to talk about with us today. Um, I've only just joined Leapsome a couple of months ago. And it's something that we actually think about a lot, right? It's something I've been spending a lot of time thinking about internally in our team, but it's also something that us as a product are thinking about. How do we build the systems that help us free up people teams to focus on the human work by our building our HRIS, our performance management system, our learning, everything in one place. What we're really aiming to do is to spend less time wrangling tool and admin and more time spending on the things that we really love to do. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Leapsome, both within our platform, but also our vision for HR and how I see tools working with leaders to really, really effectively enable us. Okay, last little bit of exposition here is we're going to be sending a recording to everyone that registered for the attendee. So share it with the team, revisit later, let us know what you think. I'd love to keep the conversation going. But let's do a proper introduction. So I'm Jessie, VP People Strategy and Operations here at Leapsome, just joined, as I mentioned, a couple of months ago. My background is in people ops, legal. I was the COO for 5 years and I've come back to people, which is a really interesting decision that I'm excited about writing about more soon. And I've also written 2 books. One is all about people operations as a product, how to run that, how to operationalize it. And the second is about purpose and work. If work is a product, then what job is your job doing for you? And how do we as people leaders really effectively make our teams feel fulfilled? So I'm going to bounce it over to you, Melanie. Let us know a bit about you. What do we need to know?
Sure. I head up the people team at Ethena. We do compliance training, if you've heard of us. I guess my background, I was in the I was in the fashion industry, then I was in the media industry, and now I'm in the HR tech industry. And by far, HR tech is my favorite. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. I'll popcorn it over to Kim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim. I am a longtime HR addict. I'm like one of the few unicorns who, right out of school, I was like, HR is where I want to be.
Good on you.
I have spent most of my career in VC funded tech. I started out with newspaper technology, very exciting. Moved to San Francisco, bounced around a bunch of different tech, and now I run my own independent fractional HR business. So I get to work with a variety of companies doing a variety of things, and it's just a blast.
Awesome. I'm going to throw a little poll out to the audience to get a feel from how you're feeling about HR at the moment. A bit of a litmus test for us. You feeling energized, like we're finally being taken seriously, something's changed? Are you cautiously optimistic, exhausted, burned out? I want to hear. That really helps us shape the conversation today. Let's get into it while we wait for that poll to run. I think it's a good place to start with like what we think the most unfair assumption is. Like, where does this come from? What do you think people think about HR that just isn't true? For me, I think the thing that really frustrates me is that there's this idea that we're just here to do admin, that we are like the HR ladies in the back office that run payroll and fill in spreadsheets. It's kind of, I think, comes down to this idea of like the shared services and like centers of excellence models that have been kicking around for like 20 something years. For me, I think it's our history, right, that holds us back. It's like structures that we have set up, and that has fed through to how people perceive us because we've been unable to kind of challenge that history. But I'd love to hear both of you guys. What do you think? Melanie, do you want to go first?
I think for me, probably the hardest thing is that I think that people hold us accountable to expectations and standards that just like aren't realistic, more so than I think another team. It's sort of like, it's a catch-22. Like either you're an asshole because you're firing people, or you're not business oriented enough because you're being too nice, or like you're not getting enough done, but we were never going to resource you in the first place because you're not revenue producing. So, but you need to be doing you more efficient. I've never met any other department that is expected to do as much with so few resources, and is constantly being told you're not good enough, you're not business oriented enough, everything you're doing is wrong. Oh, but when the finance person made the same argument, oh no, they were doing it for business oriented reasons. So I think that's maybe the most challenging thing, is that it's just like you cannot win. Just like every bad thing ever is HR's fault,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Kim, what's your thoughts?
For me, I think it's the age-old quip, like HR is just overhead. Like we're just an expense to the business. And I think it goes beyond just like a revenue or a cost center expense. Like we're an emotional expense. Like we're a time expense. Like we are just overhead in every bad sense of the word. But somebody actually called it out in the chat. They said, HR is not the principal, we're the guidance counselor. And I'm kind of loving that idea, because, truly, like we're overhead. We're not always revenue producing. I think that's changing in a lot of companies, particularly Melanie and HR tech. We're seeing a lot of it, but like we're enabling the business in a way that a finance leader can't do, a sales leader can't do, a revenue leader can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these like are all why what we're seeing in the answer to this poll is that so many of the people listening right now are exhausted but still fighting. Like I love that the vast majority of us have an element of like optimism, still fighting. There's something future coming up here, like above 70%, I think, of our audience is feeling that way. And then of course there are people that feel burned out, right? There's like a small population here. And I think a lot of these challenges are what kind of feeds into that. And Kim, I know from speaking with you at other events, we did the Great HR Debate recently, where you were on the side of anti-pay for performance and I was pro. And your positions there for me felt so clear just how much you really, really care about people, not just what drives profits, but also what takes care of the teams that you're working with. I think there is this idea, kind of underpinning all we've talked about here, that HR works for the company, not for the employee, which I hate this idea. I feel personally like it's a misunderstanding, or at least like every team works for the company, right? But do you feel like there's some truth to that we need to own in order to be taken more seriously?
I mean, my response to that first thing is always like, well, who do you work for, boo?
Yeah.
Like, we actually all work for the company and our roles are different. And to your point, like, yes, there is some
Mhm.
ownership that we have to take. We are responsible for keeping the business compliant. And that means compliant terminations. That means compliant hard conversations. We're responsible for a variety of things that feel gross and feel
Mhm.
icky. And maybe we can't always give the insights and the discussions and the reasonings, but also, every HR leader I know is here to be an ally to the employees. Like, we want to understand your perspective. We want to be able to advocate for you. And I think that's something that happens a lot in the
Mhm.
back rooms, is this employee advocacy that we bring. Now, we don't always say like, oh, well, we fought for this, we fought for this, we fought for this, and we landed with
Mhm.
this, and here's why. So I get why folks are very much like, you work for the company. A lot of our most visible work is tough. Performance
Mm.
improvement plans, reductions in forces, like, oh, hi, Pupperino. Like, not the best reputation to have, but also if you're ever cruising anti-work edit Reddit, you'll see folks being like, go to HR, go to HR. And you'll see these stories of like how HR really actually helps the employees. So
Mhm.
we're a double-edged sword. I think we need to own it, but I think we can be more vocal about how we advocate for employees and what we're really doing when it comes down to those hard decisions.
Yeah, I think you've struck to something really important, which is that we have a role to balance both employee advocacy and company strategy. And sometimes those things can feel at odds, particularly if you have to be what I would say is like a bit more opinionated, have a very clear perspective on where you're willing to sacrifice one thing in favor of the other, knowing that you don't want to hurt people or upset people intentionally, but some people may be hurt or upset by the outcomes of what's happening, right? I think layoffs are a great example here. Melanie, I think you more than almost anyone that I know have had like an incredible amount of success at balancing both being really empathetic, supportive, and employee aware, while also being, I think, pretty provocative in the work that you do at Ethena. Some of the things that you guys have done are, I think, some people find them tough to swallow potentially, right? You've got the management enablement training, which I really love, which is really about telling people like, here's where you're right and here's where you're wrong about where your manager is to support you. And that might be a little uncomfortable for some people. And the second thing is around like your compensation approach and how you separate, for example, engineering from other teams. I think this is a really hard line to toe, to be provocative and opinionated while also being supportive and employee aware. Where do you think about these moments where HR needs to build trust and where it might break down, and how you can do that in a way that both honors the employee experience while being firm and opinionated in what you would like to get done versus what people assume you should get done, to your point before?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back to what seems very obvious. And thanks for the animal love. All I do have a zoo in my
Yeah, so
apartment.
good.
I apologize. I think it all comes down to this simple truth I have in my head, which is that like employees are not stupid, and so
Mhm.
you need to treat them like adults. And I think that most companies actually don't. I think that most companies treat employees with kitty gloves. So they'll do like toxic positivity, or they'll try and like cover a shit sandwich in like sugar, and like employees see right through that. And I actually find
Mhm.
that you're just really candid upfront about what you stand for, what you don't, and more importantly, the why. Like, why is this our philosophy? I've actually found more often than not that employees are down to clown, or they're not and they will part ways, and like that's okay too. So I'll give an example. One
Mhm.
of our policies that at face value sounds really tough is we have a no negotiation policy. There's just absolutely no negotiation. Our first offer is our final offer, period. And that sounds really harsh. But I think what happens is that people think like, wow, why are you doing that? Is it because you don't want to have a conversation? You are not open to feedback? No. Like we're actually doing this to reduce pay gaps. We're actually doing
Mm.
this to reduce or to make sure that we are paying from a place of equity. And so like when we communicate these things, we give the why. And we also, for the record, say, what we don't mean, which I think is another thing companies will often forget to do. They'll say what they are saying, but they won't say what they aren't saying. So as an example, like when we talk about work-life balance at Ethena and performance, we say like, we are a high-performing company. Like we are in it to win it. We are not here to just like have a good time. We're here to crush our ARR goals. What we are not saying is that in order to succeed here, you need to work late nights every night and weekends.
Yeah.
Saying is that in order to succeed here, you need to be a ruthless asshole who doesn't care about your team members around you. What we are saying is you need to be hardworking, you need to hit your goals, and if you're not sure how to achieve them, you need to have some tough conversation, or you need to have direct conversations. So it's really a balance of like being direct about why you're doing a thing, why you believe this is the right move for the company as a whole, and then being very clear about what you are not saying, because I think understandably, in the absence of really explicit information, employees will fill the gaps with assumptions. And like, that is understandable for the record. Like, I don't think the response is to get mad at employees. Like, I didn't say that. And why did you assume that? Like, let's just all admit that like we all get a little skeptical of the man, and therefore you need to make sure that you are thinking about that and incorporating that into your messaging strategy.
I think it's a really, really wonderful example. I've actually I think there's something that this kind of brings up for me in relation to your work, Kim. So I've got a follow-up for you, Melanie, and a follow-up for you, Kim. I want to go to Kim first. I think examples like that, when you're working in-house, and there's so many people right now moving fractional, right, and going into roles like yours. When you're working in-house, so much of it is about building the relationship with your founder and your leader in order to get the buy-in, to have that kind of, I'd say bravery or courage or like perspective, right? And that's going to be like the basis of my question in a second, Melanie. But Kim, for you, working across a lot of businesses or working across businesses potentially for a short period of time, having to get buy-in on ideas that you have strong opinions on can be really tough, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you've known the right call? For example, like we should have a no negotiation policy for all the people involved, and the business decision maybe has gone the other way, or you've had to really challenge that. And maybe you were the person that had to deliver something you don't fully support, or deliver something that you felt was half-baked. How do you handle that kind of work?
I fire the client. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's it, guys. Webinar over.
We're done here. Well, first off, I think that's very similar. Like, yes, I experienced that. I also experienced it when I was in-house. Like,
okay,
sometimes we know what's right. We have the data, we have the information, we can see around the corner, and we lose the argument, and we have to communicate something we don't fully believe in. Now, with my clients, I give them both sides. Like, okay, well, let's play out this scenario. If we do it this way, let's look 5 steps down the line. Let's look around this corner. Here's what we're going to have to deal with. If we do it my way, here's how much better it's going to be. And here are some things that we'll have to deal with. So really making sure the business understands the decision. Ultimately, I'm coming in as a subject matter expert. I'm there to provide value to the business. And in my role, I'm there to provide value quickly. So we'll have tough conversations. We'll really go down the rabbit hole of like what could go wrong and what the impacts of this horrible, gross decision is. And when the business decides to go that way, I think we support it. I think we're honest about, we disagree and commit. And we plan for all of those edge cases and worst case scenarios and make sure the leaders are prepared for that. But at the end of the day, this wasn't my decision. I gave the best that I could. I gave my truest, most honest advice. I came with the data that backed it up. We decided to go this way. Cool. Let's figure out how this path goes, and really supporting the business through various scenarios.
Yeah, nice. Melanie, I think this is like almost the same question for you, maybe a slightly different take on this as well. Is like you and your CEO, Roxanne, have like an incredibly strong, like from all that we can see on the outside, but also what I know about both of you, very strong, very respectful, solid relationship. There's a lot of trust there. I know that. I think this is something that a lot of people leaders like have on their like Santa's wish list. They would love to replicate what you have with your CEO and founder. Because we all know executives sometimes just treat us like order takers, right? Like, get this done, don't want to hear all of the great points that Kim has raised. For you, how have you, A, built that relationship, Melanie, and B, how do you push back on decisions that you really feel are the right ones for the business without potentially losing your seat at the table?
Yeah. So I guess I'll answer in a roundabout way, the way that my brain is going. I think
Go for it.
first and foremost, it's really important to approach with humility and also empathy. And I know that that can be hard when you're thinking about the CEO. You're like, what empathy? Like, they have all this power.
Mhm.
But here's the thing, it's actually really freaking hard to be a CEO. Like, you have so much weight on your shoulders. You have
Yeah.
so many decisions to make. You have constant cognitive overload. And especially if you're a founder CEO, like, this is your baby. Like, it's a very stressful. And so I think when I talk to a lot of HR professionals who are really struggling with their relationship with their CEO, I usually don't hear a lot of empathy happening. It's like all the things that their CEO is doing wrong and not like why. Like, what is the context in which their CEO is feeling so stressed that they maybe said something in a harsh way, or maybe they did a half-baked idea that just like does not follow HR best practices. I think first and foremost, I usually will just like pause and make sure that I'm centering myself from the place of like empathy. Like, what is Roxanne going through this week? And like, maybe this isn't I bring to her, this like thing that I know is going to be really stressful to her. The other thing is, I am very direct in my questions, but like not in an accusatory way. So, for example, if I pitch a thing and Roxanne completely just like dismisses me, or if I pitch a thing and Roxanne says no, then somebody else pitches the thing, and then she says yes. That's a moment when I could be like, what the heck? Do you not respect me? Do you not listen to me? Right. But actually, my instinct is always like, hey, Roxanne, so I pitched this thing and you said no. And then this person pitched this thing and you said yes. Can you walk me through what about their pitch was more compelling that made you say yes to them and no to me? I always assumed that there was something that I could have done better. Obviously, there's a line, right? But I actually think that it's better to start from a place of like, I'm not here to accuse, I'm actually here to learn. Can you help me understand?
Mhm.
The great thing about this wording makes it so that it's much easier for Roxanne to own if like, you're right, I just wasn't paying attention, my bad. Or actually, no, like you framed it around morale and this person framed it around revenue. And like that was the differentiator. Crap. Yep, you're right. You're right. Right? Like that's the thing that matters most to you. The second thing is, or I guess the second bucket of things is I think it's really important to understand like what does and doesn't influence your CEO. Yep, it's really important, right? So like things like what terms are you using? Like, are you talking about ARR? Are you talking about morale? Like all those things. And also, I think that oftentimes people will try and win an argument with their CEO directly, and I actually just think that's the wrong move. I actually think the better move is get buy-in from the leadership team and get the leadership team to tell your CEO that this is the move. The reason being that like you're one person, and also you're not most of the times you're not the revenue producing person. So like the reality is you just kind of got to accept that like yours is one opinion of many and probably not the strongest opinion that your CEO is going to pay attention to. And so rather than taking that to heart, I actually will just go to Roxanne and be like, Roxanne, I understand that these are the most important things to you. So optimizing for that, I went and I talked to these people to get their perspective. And here's what I'm hearing from the team. Here's a write-up. And like, feel free to follow up with the team. But what I'm hearing is the team wants this. I think last thing I'll say on this is like, I recognize that can be hard to do. And it can feel like I'm making myself smaller. But actually, I think that I'm just making myself more effective by understanding how the system works and partnering with it versus like trying to be against the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love, just a side note, I love getting buy-in from the leaders to like help advocate for your program as well. My go-tos are always sales and engineering. Like, come on, friends, we are in this together. And normally those two voices carry a lot of weight at a tech company. And if you can get them bought in, that's like the tech, the revenue, and the people all coming with the same advocacy to the CEO and really opens up the conversation in a beautiful way.
I also think it's just like to the point we made earlier about people aren't stupid. Like your leaders know what the problems are inside their org and what's holding them back from being successful, probably better than we do most of the time. Building things that they really believe in, that they think will solve their problems, that they understand the trade-offs about what went like on in the designing of them only helps us. I think I understand your point about making yourself smaller, Melanie, but I actually think you actually end up making your reach bigger if more people are willing to advocate for the solutions that they couldn't build without your help, right? It's their job to identify the problems. It's our job to help identify the ways that we can solve those problems really effectively. And it's our job to go away and build things that people believe in. And I think it just makes our reach more compelling.
Can we touch on that real
Yeah.
quick? A quick comment
No.
here. Yes, I think that like, I get it. HR professionals are put down so often and like dismissed and all the things. And so like, I think that oftentimes we have this inclination to like, be like, look at the work that I did. Like, look how much work I put into this. And actually, I just often think that's to our detriment. And so I would just put out there, like, resist the urge to be like the star of the show and instead like focus on like how you can enable the success, whether like you are the face of it or somebody else is, because I agree, just like that's actually how you're going to have the biggest reach.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I think
No one gets into this role for fame and fortune.
exactly. I think the other thing as well, that we're kind of going off piece now, but I think this is actually a really important part of this conversation. Another thing that I think is a worrying trap that HR leaders looking for authority and validation can do is lean on compliance as an area of, well, I'm the person that holds the keeper of the keys of compliance. So I'm going to say when this process happens, when it doesn't. I'm going to be a bottleneck. I'm going to be the person people have to come to, rather than the person that people want to come to. And that, I think, is like the beginning of the end for any successful operation with HR. If you are the person that sees themselves as only having authority through compliance, you will never get the buy-in from the team that you want, and you'll never reach the business outcomes that you really want to achieve either. And I think this ties back to like what people think HR is there for. If your only value that you consistently seem to be adding is a compliance check, that is the way that the company will see you. You are going to be a compliance check, right? Maybe this is a good one to throw out to the chat actually as well. It's like, what if it's one word, what do employees in your team think HR is there for? Because I think perception is reality to some degree. It really feeds back exactly what your team is. If your team is thinking that you're a compliance check, or if your team is thinking you're the fun police, or if your team is thinking you're the party organizers, then I think it's worth thinking about where are we present? What are we doing most effectively? Okay, I want to do a little rapid fire. Kim, Melanie, keep this on track. If you could change one thing about HR right now, how it's structurally positioned, what's the one thing you would change magically with a magic wand today?
Melanie, you want to go first?
Oh, I was about to say if I could change one thing structurally, you know what? I don't know that I would change things structurally. I just I think what I would change is just like the expectation and like the clarity that like we're all influence, no authority. And I think that's as it should be. There can only be one decision maker on every team. But I don't think that's necessarily always clear across the board. And so if I could change something, I would just make it so that like when HR professionals meet with stakeholders, they would just be upfront about that. Like, hey, you're the decision maker here, not me. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Make sure the decision you make is the most well-informed decision possible. So I'm going to share my opinion. It's not to like make your life harder. It's to make sure that like you have a well-informed decision. So here's my opinion. Go forth and conquer.
Kim, have you had time?
Yes. I mean, similar vein, bring me in earlier. Like structurally, I am actually your partner. I think to Melanie's point, you are the decision maker, but I am your partner to help you look at all the facets of this little gem that we've got. So how can I help you look at things in a different light, support your decision, but also challenge it so we get to the best one? Like, just bring me in earlier. I'm not just a compliance check. I'm your partner in success.
Yeah, love. I'm like reading some really sad responses to this in the comments. I want to make sure we spend some time really thinking about this, right? Because we've got things like necessary evil, CCTV, travel agent, order takers, policy police, cleanup crew, the scapegoats. Like, these are tough things to like metabolize as a person. Like, this is how the work that I am seeing and doing, spending every day doing, is being perceived by the company. And I think there is this general kind of, it's like almost like a dream. I speak to a lot of like HR leaders who are like, well, the day that I can finally be more strategic, that I can solve all this problem, that I can finally be strategic and all of this admin will wash away, all of this point of view that I'm like a compliance pusher or an admin taker or a scapegoat because I can finally be strategic. I really struggle with this as an idea. I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give it straight to you, Kim. Have you actually seen anyone break this cycle just from wishful thinking, or like, is there something operationally you can do to get there? What's your point of view?
I mean, no, wishful thinking will not break this cycle.
Yeah.
Like it does actually require action. I'm not going to lie. There's been, VP of people roles, head of people roles that I've stepped into that, yeah, I'm going to play that role for a little bit. Like, this is what you expect from me. This is what I play your role. But there's cracks. There's cracks in those beliefs, and I'm going to find them and wiggle my way in there and like help you see how strategic this role actually is. Like, look, there are admin things that we need to get done. There are compliance things that we need to be respectful of. Like, yes, we have to run payroll sometimes. And also, like, I'm going to sit and listen for a little bit. I'm going to be a bit of an observer until I can really like hit you with something ground shaking and like, oh, okay. And then that starts to shift and change the relationship. So it's never overnight. It does take time. In our role, we really have to build trust because we're going to be challenging a lot of things. So you need to put pennies in that trust bank. So when you make the withdrawal, folks will know like, oh, this is actually in the best interest. Did I answer your question? I feel like I went on my own.
Absolutely. Melanie, do you have any thoughts on this before I dive in?
No, I'll flag that. Like, I think that part of the problem is that the name of our field is like so vague and confusing. Like, my title is Chief People Officer. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like,
you are people. That is true.
Right? Like, are we not all people leaders? Like, are not all managers responsible for people strategy in some form? And so I think that can be a little bit confusing. And also, like, what about people? People happiness, like people compliance, people what? And the best thing that I've settled on that I try to orient around whenever I'm having a moment of like, okay, what is the best contribution I can make here, and how should I tackle this conversation? Is I just think of my job as being my job is to drive performance across the company. And once I made that shift in my head, it just changed everything, because the way I'm thinking about things is like, if I'm talking about morale, it's in service of performance. It's not in service of morale, it's in service of performance. If I'm talking about making a tough decision like terminating someone, it's in service of performance. It's not in service of anything else, right? And so I've found that to be super helpful, is just to orient around that.
Yeah, I think that's such good points. Belinda in the chat has just mentioned human capital management. As an ex-Goldman Sachs employee, that was the name of our department. I'm gonna be a stick in the mud here and say, I think that's just a better title. Like, I think actually us moving into the world of like people and something much more soft and something much less direct and clear, like ultimately the biggest line item on Belinda's also worked at Goldman Sachs, shout out girly. The biggest line item on our company's budget, especially if you're a SaaS business, is going to be 60% headcount. Our job is to make sure that spend is effective. We are being given, I think, the biggest financial responsibility in the company by saying, we're going to have you and your team be responsible for making sure that 60% of our company spend every single month is not going to waste, that we're optimizing this really well. And I think an uncomfortable reality of that is that not the human beings, but the contractual relationship we have with human beings is a capital allocation problem. Are we making contracts that are fair, have good ROI? It's not about, is this human being worth more or less than someone else? Is this contract of employment worth more or less than another contract of employment? And how do we make that contract employment more effective? So I think actually this move away from commercial language has left us feeling a little more muddy, frankly. And I think that's actually a big part of being this like push away from admin and more strategic. I love your framing there, Melanie. It's like, what are we really aiming for? Because ultimately, in my opinion, you become a strategic leader when you're able to solve problems people have that matter to the business. And in my framing, it's making the ROI of those contracts as high as possible. And I think your wording is basically the same, which is it's around driving performance. And if we are solving actual problems that are at the coalface that are preventing those things from being effective, you're going to become more strategic. Because Kim, to your point, yes, we have compliance. So does every single team. Finance has compliance. Product has compliance. Sales has compliance. We can't just be going out bribing customers. We can't just be going out putting harmful things in our products, right? But I don't sit in meetings and have them have their predominant method of power default to compliance. They default to impact, right? They default to driving performance in whatever their area is. And I think that that's a headspace that we all need to get into, right? But challenging, a lot of us are running with really lean teams. Like this is big, we're talking big shifts, mindset shifts that might be exhausting, difficult for teams to metabolize. And we're being told consistently again and again that we need to be proving the value of AI inside out, like where the teams now that have to do this first and foremost to build credibility within the business, to enable these skills. This is skills that I think a lot of us don't traditionally have. We're being told to be the leaders here in this potentially, but we're not tech leaders. It's like during COVID, we were meant to be the economists of the business, working out how to build remote compensation frameworks that adapted to every move of the global market. And now all of a sudden we're being asked to be technology enablers. This is a big shift mentally. I think the first step is knowing what we can do in our own teams potentially. And I'd love to hear from you guys, like what are the things that we can automate or delegate or stop doing entirely that may be a good opportunities for us to investigate how to use AI in our leader teams?
I mean, I'll jump in and say the question I ask at the start of every quarter, I go around to all of our leadership teams members, and I just ask, like, what are the things I'm doing that feel like a waste of time? And what do you wish I was working on instead? I find it so helpful because 9 times out of 10, you are doing a people initiative that people like do not want to do, or they want to do it in half the time, but no one will say it to you because, especially at a company like Ethena, where we're an HR tech company, we want to seem like very HR pro, so like it can feel scary to like give that feedback sometimes, to like alleviate that burden, say like, I'm sure that like any other department, there's probably a thing I'm doing that maybe isn't like the most useful, like the best use of time.
Yeah.
What is it? And to like give me a solution. What should I be working on instead? So I've found that really helpful in just like knocking things off my plate. I also pay close attention to the things that people are ignoring. So like if I'm posting a thing on Slack and like nobody's reacting, nobody's asking questions, that's a pretty good indicator that like either you did it wrong, so like it was too long, it didn't like clearly tie to the ROI and like why people should care, or like it's maybe just not the top priority right now. It's something as simple as like an engagement survey. 9 out of 10 of them are too long, asking the wrong questions. Thank you. Yep, I'm not alone here. But also, sometimes it's just the wrong timing. Like if you did it at the end of the quarter and all the sales reps were focused on like closing their deals, like nobody was going to do it. And so I just, to the extent possible, again, I know that this is hard because so much of what we do gets dismissed, overlooked, and like unlike any other department, we like constantly have to prove our worth and value. And still, if you are open and you ask the questions proactively, you will just learn so much and so much faster, rather than like if you take it personally every time, everybody ignores the thing that you put out there.
Yeah, beautiful. Kim, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go back to your comments on AI and implementing new things into the business. Like, first off, I think this is an incredible opportunity for people operations and people leaders. One, for me, it helps get a ton of admin off my plate. Like a lot of my clients, I am a team of 1, maybe 1.5. So we're automating onboarding communications. We're onboarding welcome letters. We're automating all of those things that used to take so much time in my day. Now it's on autopilot and it gives me space to free up my head. And like, it's something the business is so excited about. So how can we channel that energy? Our pro move is change management, creating frameworks and structures, setting some boundaries. Like that's all that this technologist work is really becoming. And you get the opportunity to start, again, looking ahead and showing your leadership team what's around that corner. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, how much money are we allocating to spend in tokens? Is it a free for all? Like if we have this senior software engineer at $200,000 and they're spending $100,000 in tokens, would $250,000 engineers be better? Like, how are we thinking about the spend, the impact, the ROI of AI? Like, oh, what an incredible opportunity we have. Not that we don't have enough on our plates, but like to Melanie's point, go where the business is excited. The business is excited about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun experimentation that can happen. I mean, I think at the moment, like, I almost feel like it's a bit too early to even really talk about ROI as much as it is to talk about, like, what are the things that are fun to play with at work that's going to give us the skills we need in the future. It's almost preparing for the ROI in some way, like brand marketing before we get the actual land. But yeah, people are excited. It's a fun thing to talk about. And it's also such a massive opportunity for us to be talking about this from the perspective of, God, who wants to hear, like, we're going to make you more efficient? That's like the most demotivating sentence I've ever heard. I would much rather hear, we're going to give you room to experiment. We're going to help you build skills that you're going to need in the future. And we don't know exactly what for yet. That for me is like such more of an open kind of opportunity than we're going to be implementing AI to make everyone more efficient. Yuck. Like everyone feels like they're efficient.
Higher productivity.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Okay, I want to throw a poll in here as well to get a feel for like what everyone in the team is working on. Admin versus strategic work split. Is there a right answer to that? I'd love to get our thoughts as well. But like, we're working on mostly admin, mostly strategic work, somewhere in the middle. Let's talk a little bit about how that kind of shapes us. Because Kim, you just mentioned there that like there are things that you can do to kind of free up your headspace. And headspace, I think, honestly, is like the biggest, for me anyway, I don't know if you guys feel separately, the biggest unlock to my ability to solve problems from a much higher point of view. When I'm stuck in the mud, I really struggle to like solve big picture problems. I'm like really, really operational. So I need that time to be thinking, to be connecting context. And for me, I really believe in the power of user research. I think we've all kind of like thread this just in our previous answer. Surveys are a bad way to do it. If you're getting survey fatigue, asking bad questions, pounding everyone to like just extract value from them and their insights. And then talking to people and understanding, is this thing I'm building effective? Asking good questions is such an important part of building a bigger picture around what are the things that you can do to help your company. For example, I at Leapsome have a one-to-one. Well, this is the thing I've always kind of done, but I'm doing it now. I have a one-to-one with everyone in the entire company every year. It's a goal I try to hit for myself. Talent pool became unwieldy at the end. We had 500 people, but I always still tried every year. And I found that I have a series of questions I ask that are very purposefully pointed towards trying to get a strategic perspective on what's happening with the company. And I'm also there to try and build better relationships to help open that door for people to give me feedback if they don't think things are working. And I think there's a lot of value in this qualitative feedback that we can gather as HR leaders. Because the only time that the team ever sees you is like a PIP or onboarding paperwork. That's going to really challenge how they see you. So I'd love to hear from both of you. What are the steps that you're taking to both build a relationship where people are comfortable giving you honest feedback about the work you're doing, and also presenting yourself to the company as more than just a person that does PIPs, does admins, is the police, is CCTV, and how can we maybe like implement some practical tips to do that?
Go ahead, Kim.
I saw you come off mute. Yeah. So one, I like to meet employees where they're at. Like Jessica, I love one-on-ones with the whole company. What a beautiful idea. Not everybody wants to have a one-on-one with HR. So I think making sure we're offering different venues for that. Maybe it's a roundtable session. Maybe it's a lunch together, just a casual lunch to chit chat. Maybe I have a survey tool that I really like that folks can respond in writing or in voice, and they can just send me voice notes.
That's cool.
That's been, little pricey, very helpful. And that's been really helpful in building those relationships. I also find just like casual check-ins, like a Slack every now and again. If I know something's going on from the leaders, like I might just send a Slack of like, hey, I've heard your name a lot lately. Either things are going really well or things aren't going really well, but I just want to offer a space to vent, decompress, chat, hear your opinions about the problems that we have, and be a partner in problem solving them.
Yeah.
So meeting them where they're at has been super, super fantastic. And I hate to use the word like authentic or vulnerable, but like showing that I myself am a human too. Like I
Yeah.
will say when I was wrong, when I made a mistake, the impacts that it has, and giving folks that opportunity to be like, oh,
Yeah.
everyone makes mistakes, and owned up to them, gave the future path forward. That's really been helpful in building those relationships and like celebrating the wins. I never celebrate my own wins. I like to celebrate
Yeah.
team wins and like recognizing others. Again, we are not the main character in the business story. We are very much a supporting actor.
Yeah.
But making sure you spread that recognition and folks see you as like
Love.
somebody that they can look to as a beacon of light can be really helpful.
So
Melanie, I'm making notes. I'm going to add them in the chat. Go ahead.
I have what I'm realizing might be a spicy take. And I didn't think it was
No.
spicy, but now I'm realizing I'm in the minority here. So I've actually in the past few years just stopped trying to build a relationship with employees. Hear me out.
Ooh, okay. Hit us with this. I want it.
Hear me out. I just think that like people are never going to be as open with me as they are going to be with their manager. And so I've stopped trying to do this thing where it's like, hello, I'm the HR person. Like, please come talk to me. Instead of sort of been like, who are you actually realistically going to talk to? Your manager. So how do I enable your manager to be someone that you're open to talking to? How do I enable you to like speak up through like managing up tips? How do I enable you through like a clear expectation setting, like it is your job to have agency and speak up.
Yeah.
And if you don't, like here's where things break in the system and why it's so important. And actually where I've started funneling in these past few years, the majority of my effort is building relationships across the leadership team and our managers, because I want them to come to me. And I want them to be able to tell me like, hey, that thing you did was like such a waste of time. All my team hated it. And they told me, thank you. Like, I actually don't need, in my opinion, I don't need to talk to each of your direct reports. I need you to tell me what they're sharing with you. Obviously, I'm not saying that I don't still do stay interviews periodically, so on and so forth. But I think that I used to care like quite a bit about like, how do I like PR myself across the company. And I think that at the end of the day, I actually only need to PR myself within the leadership team and the managers, and like everyone else, like, I actually think it's okay if like the person they go to is their manager and not me.
Yeah.
Also, because realistically, from a bandwidth perspective, I can't be that person for everyone. That's my take. It's not like a rejection of what you all are doing. More like, I think I've just like spent more of my resources in a different direction these past few years.
No, I think this is a really, really good ad. I think it actually is like complementary to what I do as well. Like the questions I ask for context aren't things like, do you feel like you could always come to me? It's very much establishing me as like, I'm here to fix systemic problems. Like, where are the strategic parts of what's happening at Leapsome that you fundamentally don't agree with that I can go away and resolve? Like, where are magic wand solutions to parts of the company that I can go and investigate? And also establishing that I'm here for feedback to come through the manager. I think this is actually a really, really good point. Is I think back to something that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was having compensation changes were coming out, bonuses were coming out. And our people team had a lot of messages from people saying, hey, can someone get on a call with me and talk to me about this document? And my people team went away and they want to build this, like, hey, well, these are the talking points for our team. These are the things we're going to say to these people. And I categorically have to say, absolutely not. These are the talking points you're going to redraft to send to managers. We are not the people that explain to people how they're paid. And if we are the people doing that, the only thing we're setting ourselves up for is being a highly bloated HR team that has a bunch of admin to run every single time there is a change, and the scapegoats for every single bad decision that the company makes. It is managers that have to be the ones that own these decisions. And our job is to make sure that the path for managers to do that is clear and well enabled, and that employees trust that we have their best interests at mind when managers default to a policy decision or a structural decision. And I think that those two things coming from exactly what we're talking about here, right, is how do we both position ourselves as a team that is not the team that solves every problem for them, but also where we are solving problems, we are trustworthy. We are real humans that know the challenges that the employees have, and those challenges exist structurally, and that's our job. Okay, we're getting towards question time. I'm going to ask one more question. If your founder or a CEO or someone, say we're all starting new jobs. So they're like, actually, Melanie, you don't get to lean on your great relationship anymore. You're extracted. We're all extracted. We start a new company, and the founder comes to us and says, I want to completely redesign how HR works. You can do whatever you want. Go for it. It's a Greenfield's business, maybe a couple hundred people. They've never had a HR leader, and they're all desperate for change. So this is, it's going to land. What's the first thing that you would be like, this is in my vision? Is it your team? Is it your tech stack? Is it the org chart? What are the things that you want to make happen? Melanie can go first. If she's got spicy takes.
Well, let me think about this. If I could totally start from scratch, what would be the first thing? This is a hard one. Sorry, I'm taking a second. Kim, if you have an idea, jump in. Otherwise, I think yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in. And this is actually going to harken back to the last time Jessica and I were on a webinar together. Spiciest take I have, I would separate performance and compensation. I would invest heavily in a performance management system because a great performance program is a great engagement program. Like when folks know how they're going to be paid, what's expected of them, and that they have the time to take back to them. Like time as a reward is an understated thing. So I think really leaning on performance, separating out compensation, and realizing that that's going to drive higher engagement. If I had a Greenfield and like all the backing in the world, that's where I'd start. And I think that would really change how folks engaged with work. I think it would have impacts beyond work and how folks engaged with their families, their communities, their third thing. If home is first and work is second, what's your third thing? It's a very spicy take, and not a lot of CEOs are super into this idea, but the ones that are, I think there's a lot of ROI for it.
Oh, and okay.
Melanie, go ahead.
Okay, so you got me thinking. You got the wheels.
Wheels turning.
Helpful, Kim. Okay, I'll be like, I'll pick just like one specific thing that's been on my mind recently. That listen, it's not a secret. You can tell Roxanne. Okay, we're talking about it actively. So you had alluded just to like our engineering salary and how it's different from the rest. So context for all. So for all of our employees, except for for all of our employees, we are very direct about like we pay top of market. But like the only way that this works is that like you have to deliver top of market performance, because otherwise like we run out of money, and top performance begets more money that then begets like top performance pay. And so that's why like you're not performing, we got to part ways because the ROI is not there. And we have these very direct conversations up front. But I actually don't think we push it enough everywhere outside of engineering. So in our engineering team, there's just a flat rate model. This is how much you get paid at this for this role when you are hired. And then every 6 months you get an increase. You get X increase if you are meeting expectations, and you get like double that if you are exceeding expectations. And it's every 6 months. The only way you do not get an increase is if you are underperforming. But if you're underperforming, we're probably also going to part ways realistically. So with that said, what was really great about that is that because we are just like funneling more and more money into these employees, it means that these employees have to be delivering more value every 6 months. Otherwise, it's not justified, which is why like employees have to get better continually, right? And I don't think we do it enough at across the rest of the company. And I think it makes it a little bit harder sometimes to really determine like, is this person meeting the bar? Are we paying them enough? And I think on engineering, because there's like this forcing function of like, well, we're going to keep paying them more. So like, are we pushing them enough? It forces us to have these really tough conversations about like, well, are we enabling them to achieve more? And if we don't feel good about giving them more money, like why is that? And what conversations haven't we had yet? Where I think like across the rest of the business, it's just like, it's a little bit harder when it's just like a salary band. So anyway, that's like, if you could change anything, I would just make it so that like every year you have to pay your employees more. And if that means that you then have to expect more of your employees, great. But like, you got to be pushing the bar. I don't understand companies that like, don't give their employees increases or give them the bare minimum increase of like 2% that means nothing to them. But then at the same time, like you need to be doing more. Like it just so I would change comp across like everywhere.
Yeah, I fully agree with this. Like comp is such like it is the heart of every single thing that we do. I think it in HR, it is like the fundamental part of that contract we were talking about before. The employees come lots of reasons. I wrote a whole book about purpose and work, but a fundamental must have minimum part of it is you're getting paid and you're getting paid fairly, and you see that compounding. I think my point of view is I probably would all the above, yes, commercial HR. I think the only thing I would add to that is I would definitely see my HR team as builders too now, right? I'd have engineers in my team. I think we have an obligation to be building on the front lines, building tools the team are using. And that I think at the moment we are a little slow in the uptake. So that's something I would definitely be pushing forward. Okay, we're so close to the end. I've got 5 minutes. We've got some questions. I'm going to just go from most upvoted to least upvoted. So if you are listening now and you want to have your question answered or someone else's question answered, get a voting because it's the only way it's going to get answered. How do you explain upper management that HR does not issue disciplines or do the firing? That's not our only job. The direct manager should do it with the support of HR. This person's also added here that HR should be the safe space for employees, which I think that we might have some different answers to. But yeah, how do you set that up that we're supporting, not running?
Ooh, so a little bit
go
of a
ahead.
spicy take. I like to talk about things like performance improvement plans, what happens if you're underperforming at orientation, like right at the start. Look, here's the structure. Here's how we operate. Here's on our intranet where you can go learn more about this, the resources that you're supporting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not the one communicating it. You're the one evaluating performance against the standards that we've set at the company. You're the one bringing this to me. So yeah, I'm going to enable you, but this is on you, boo. Like I'm not, to earlier questions, I'm not your scapegoat.
Kim, Melanie, sorry, any thoughts?
I think it's all about like, what is the most effective way to do this? And realistically, like if I do it, it's not going to be nearly as effective as if you do, because to Kim's point, like I wasn't involved in these conversations. I'm not going to be actually able to answer questions as they come up. And we're just going to make it harder for HR to partner effectively with people. And also like, I don't know if you realize this, but it actually makes you look bad. Like, again, employees are not dumb.
Yeah.
They can see that you basically pass this off to HR. Like, is that really the impression you want to give? I'm guessing not.
Yeah, I agree with this. Okay, we've got one more question, and then I'm going to do like a little rapid fire wrap up for everyone. Okay, this is an interesting one for me because I feel like I'm definitely on the edge of what is considered to be almost distasteful. I just mentioned that I love human capital management as a title. I would constantly talk about employee lifetime value to CAC payback ratio. How do you get executive leaders to care about employees as people, not just the workforce or the bottom line? I keep talking they're paid, that should be enough, as if respect, well-being, benefits, emotional support, and growth don't matter. This is a bit of a leading question. My take on this one straight off the bat is like, it's possible to hold both views, right? It's possible for me as a person to see our relationships with our employees as like contractual workforce and investment we are making. And also be like that investment is made up of people that have feelings, right? There's a service element of it. I don't know if any of you have ever worked in professional services, but just the same way as you're capable of holding in your head that your humans at work are the product you are selling to other companies, you're able is also identifying that there are people behind the scenes. Obviously, hearing things like they're paid, that should be enough is like kind of intolerable to me. But I also think that like presenting well-being benefits and, for example, growth as a cost to the company that must have some kind of return on investment. It is part of the compensation, that this kind of contractual relationship that you're offering to employees means that you do need to step out of this language and a little bit into the headspace of the workforce language that maybe you find a little distasteful. And again, you can hold both of those views at once, and proving that you're able to do that effectively and be commercial, I think actually is going to drive the awareness from your founder or CEO that that's possible, or how to use your language as well. That's my take. Melanie, any thoughts on this one? And then I'll hand over to Kim.
Yeah, I just think the question is always like, in service of what? Like, okay, care about employees in service of what? In service of the business, in service of retention of our high performers. And like I think all of this is correct, but I think where we sometimes fall short is connecting the dots. Like employee morale is only important insofar as it helps drive the business. If it's employee morale for the sake of morale, like we're all going to be out of business. Like none of us are going to have jobs in a year or two because we'll just have run out of money because we were optimizing for employee happiness instead of driving the business forward.
Beautiful. Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of double clicking on the employee wellness, and look, your happiness is your own issue. I'm not here to make you happy. Like you deal with that on your own time. But also, if I can take some worries off your plate, healthcare, I think Compt is doing some really cool things with like lifestyle spending accounts. Like the more of that external to work headspace I can clear up, if you're able to dedicate and be a higher performer at work. I think this harkens back to Melanie's, like in service of what? Like if I can ease some of those burdens so you can show up as a more engaged, more productive, higher performing employee, then I want to do it. But again, it's talking to your leadership team in that language. Like, hey, if they weren't so worried about how they're going to pay their medical bill next month, they'd probably be able to show up a little bit better here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. We're 1 minute over. I'm doing a bad job now. We're cutting into Jesse's disorganized territory. I'm not going to do a wrap up. I'm just going to say thank you both because you guys know I love you. I love every time we have conversations. I love that we drop some spicy stuff in. I love that we had different opinions. This is what it's all about. I think this makes us, I say so often that you have to stand out in the marketplace of culture. There's no right or wrong answer here. What is Melanie is saying might be super right for her point in time at Ethena, which is why I think made that Greenfields question so hard to ask, because we're like, who knows? What kind of company is it? What do we want to hire? Where are we going to go? And Kim, I think so many of your perspectives, again, being so human-centric, really taking this from a perspective of how do I bring to employees a sense of trust that I'm making good decisions grounded in their humanity. I love that you always bring that to the table. So thank you both so much for bringing your perspectives, bringing your honesty. There's a bunch of things that were happening in the chat. People have asked for copies of the Great HR Debate, Kim. People have asked Melanie for some questions around retention and what's going on at Ethena. How do you balance high performance in this kind of pressure? We're going to continue the conversation in People Over Perks, our Slack community from Leapsome. Come join me there. I dive in, although not from next week because I'm going to be on a road trip, but maybe on my phone. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for your time. Have a really wonderful day. And thank you everyone for coming along to this event. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.